Hello, Obooters from around the world. My name is Kais, and I am 11 years old, and I live in Montreal, Canada. Welcome to our Aboot Zoom session where me and my co-host Arihaan, who currently lives in New Delhi, India, will be interviewing our guest change-maker, Vitika Yadav, who is also based in New Delhi, India. Vitika is the co-founder of Development Consortium, an organization dedicated to work with children, women, and vulnerable communities to overcome poverty, inequality, abuse, and injustice. Vithika is also an anti-slavery and gender rights activist. Vithika's work contributes to several sustainable development goals, particularly to SDG number 5, gender equality, and SDG number 10, reduced inequalities. We hope that you will enjoy this session. Now I'll be handing over to Arihaan to ask the first question.
What is slavery?
What is slavery?
Yeah.
Okay, so when people are forced to work or live somewhere without being paid, they are coerced, they are not allowed to leave, and they are put in situations of exploitation. That is a situation which is called slavery. When you're not allowed to leave, when you are kept in spaces where all your rights are taken away and you are made to work but you're not paid anything, that is called slavery.
How many slaves are there in the world?
How many slaves are there in the world? So, slavery, the kind of problem it is, and we all know that it's an organized crime. It's very difficult to have exact number of slaves in the world, but there have been certain estimates which have been made as recent as 2017 by the United Nations International Labour Organization and International Organization on Migration, and the number stands at around 40 million slaves in the world today, and about a quarter of them are actually children.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot of people in slavery, and we think that slavery is abolished, that slavery is illegal, but the fact is that there's no country in the world today that is immune to slavery.
I have an idea.
Yes.
Why do people make other people slaves?
That's a very important question. Why do people keep other people as slaves? Like, why does slavery persist? It's because, when we look at drugs trafficking or arms trafficking, likewise, human trafficking and buying and selling of human beings is a profitable business. So people think that by buying and selling people and exploiting them, they're able to make money. But it just talks about how inhuman we can be, the fact that we can actually keep people as slaves and make profits out of them, to make them work without pay, to take all their rights away, to not give them the money that they must be paid for the work they do. And I guess it's a very good question. I don't know how to answer this question really. Why do people keep slaves? Why does this persist? And I think it's an important question for all of us to ask, because I think, when we go to the shops and we like 110 things, there's so much available in the market and we all want to buy, and we are constantly thinking, oh, this is really at a good price, as in it's cheap. When we want to buy something cheap, we also need to understand that there might be the reason why it is so cheap is because the people who worked on it were possibly not even paid. So every time we go to the market, in terms of what we want to wear, be it clothes, be it shoes, be it the food we eat, the gadgets we buy, we really need to think twice about the fact that is whatever we are buying, is it coming from some form of slavery? Is there some form of slavery involved? And I think
So basically, slavery is a bad thing, and they don't get paid after the hard work that they do.
yes, exactly. And it is bad because it's
It's
to
like
keep people
it's bullying
it's
other
bullying,
people and just taking their lives away and
taking their lives away and making money out of them. Exactly. Yes, which is why it is inhuman, it is wrong. And it is not just about people who enslave other people, it is also about people like you and me who need to think twice about what we buy and how we buy, and to make sure that we are putting that pressure on companies. Like, you bought a pair of shoes today, right? We need to think about it. Was there any labor, any forced labor, any child labor? You know, children are made to work in factories. They're kept in slavery.
I've heard that in America, black people are getting killed and making slaves and like.
Well, yes, I mean, yes, that's another point. Yes, that some people are mistreated for their origin, or for their color, or for their for ethnicity,
For
and
the gender.
for their gender, for a lot of different things. And while slavery is legally, it's abolished everywhere. It's not legal,
banned.
it's crime, but it still happens everywhere. That's the biggest problem, and there are 40 million slaves in the world even today.
Well, cool.
I mean, yeah, the times we are living in.
Okay, I'm done with my questions.
You're done with your questions? Okay. Kazu, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I have a few. What inspired you to do your work on slavery?
The fact that when I met a freed person for the first time who was enslaved, it really made me think very, very hard about the privileges that I had grown up with, the fact that we had, sort of grown up in a very protected environment, and the fact that I could place myself in that person's shoes, is what really hit me. The fact that this it's not about anybody else's problem. It has to be your problem, because anybody can be enslaved, and if you do not stand up for anyone else today, tomorrow it could be you. And something that is wrong is wrong, and the fact that you need to stand against it. So I think that really inspires me every single day. The fact that I never take my privilege for granted. I always feel that there are lots of inequalities in this world, and it just is unfair that we continue to live our lives without really standing up for what is right. So I think it's that drive and that passion for standing up for the right thing that inspires me to do what I do every day.
All right. Well, I have one last question because I didn't really have many. Do you have any advice for people who would also like to become change makers?
Yes. I think there is, there's so much that we can complain about, because there's so many things in this world which are wrong. But I guess underestimating the power that we have as individuals, and also the fact that, not to segregate it as, I'm in a certain age group, so I cannot influence behaviors, I cannot do much about it. How can I make change? People generally underestimate themselves, and I think that's where the problem is. So I feel every person in this world has the power to influence and to change, each one of us. It doesn't require us to be in a certain country specifically, or to be in a certain position, or to be a certain gender. Not at all. It just requires us to know and acknowledge that there is a problem, and we all need to play our part to do that little bit, because all of us can do that little bit. And that becomes, and to be a change maker, it's not something, it's not something that is for a specific group of people who can decide to do something, but all of us have it in us, and we all have to learn to stand up for what is right. Just voice your opinion, stand up and do your best, and just mobilize people. You can do it at a school level, you can do it at a university level, you can do it in your professional spaces, but each one of us have the opportunity to make a change. We just have to look around and see, where do we start.
So, thank you, Vitika and Arthur, and the great discussion for today, and all the things we learned today. And thank you, Obooters, for listening to this interview. And make sure to follow us on our social medias, Instagram and YouTube, so you can hear about upcoming sessions with other change makers like this one. Please also tell your friends about Oboot and share our social media links with them. And last but not least, go to www.oboot.co to learn about opportunities to collect Oboot digital badges.